welcome back to another amazing week of content. This is Breakfast with Dr. Kojo, and I'm excited to talk about uh, something that has been on my mind as of late a lot, for whatever reason, other people's opinions of, what you do and who you are. So we're going to talk about that this morning, but let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kojo. I'm checking in live from sunny Los Angeles, California. I hope it's going to get a little sunnier today, but it looks like we're headed in the right direction. But go ahead and let me know where you all are checking in from, and then let's go ahead and get started on this amazing episode. Let's get it, y'all. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Give people some time to file on in. It's morning. It's early. People got to, get up, get in, and get with it. It's a little bit of water, but not an official water break. Dylan says, "At me next time." What's up, Dylan? How you doing? We have Marshana checking in from Texas. Leilani checking in from Tennessee. She's a day one. She's a staple. We have Courtney checking in from Dallas as well. We got Dana checking in from Maine, waiting at the hospital. Dana, I hope everything is going well with you. Boston in the house, Hawaii in the house, Ontario. So we got Canada. We got more Canadians. Ottawa in the house. Charlotte in the house. We got love from Georgia, love from Denver, love from Seattle, love from Arkansas. Deshara says, "I don't know what part I came in on, but you're so right, and I'm here for it." Yeah, we're going to talk about it. We will talk about it. Jason from Niles, Michigan. Jason, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. California, Alabama. We have Cindy from Mexico. All right, Cindy. I didn't know you were in Mexico. Hope all is well. We got love from North Florida, Petaluma, California. I'm not sure where that's at. Texas, Bloomington. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's talk about other people's opinions of you and why it's important to be mindful of not allowing yourself to get too caught up in what people say about you. So, as we know, when people, or let's just say people, right? Not the people closest to you, but when people say things about you, you have the option of taking it one of two ways, right? You can either believe them or you can reject what people say, right? Now, when somebody says something good about you, the natural thing to do is to be like, "Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Yeah, I'm doing great, blah, blah, blah." But when people say something bad about you, whether it's true or not, it can affect you to the point where you start to believe those things, right? And especially when we talk about mental health, and especially ADHD, because obviously, like, I have it and I live with it, but mental health conditions in general. Sometimes people will tell you things and it's their voice in your head, and over time you believe it, right? So let's say you're struggling with depression and somebody says, "Oh, you'll never become a firefighter or you'll never become an engineer because you have depression and you're not going to be productive enough to do this job." Over time, you begin to believe that thing, and then you tell yourself, "I can't do this. I can't finish my coursework because I can't focus. I can't finish this because I can't get out of bed. I can't do this. I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't." When in fact, it's not that you can't, it's just that you haven't been able to do so at this point, right? But tomorrow you can do it. But today, for whatever reason, we're kind of struggling with whatever's on our plate. But tomorrow's a new day, we can do it, right? Or later today, we can do it. But a lot of times people will project their insecurities, their fears on you. And you have to be mindful of that, right? So when we, go, through our day-to-day lives and we interact with people, we have to have empathy. That's the first thing I want y'all to understand. We have to have empathy for other people's opinions, right? And we have to respect other people's opinions, right? But we don't have to accept that for ourselves, if that makes sense. I'm gonna have to run that back one more time, right? Have empathy for people, for where they're coming from, right? Whether they're projecting or not, and respect their opinion. But you don't have to accept their opinion, right? So if I post my content and somebody's saying, "Oh, I hate your content, it's corny," or "I'm not learning anything from it and it's not funny," I'll say, "Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have empathy for where you're coming from, and I respect your opinion, but I absolutely reject that opinion." Like, and of course, if we get the hate comments or whatever, you set boundaries, you block people, and then you go on with your life. But if somebody says, "I don't like your content," you can leave that comment on the video, and that's fine because that's your opinion. I respect it. but I completely reject that opinion for myself, right? I gotta say insular. I don't want that to get into my psyche. And then the people who are benefiting from the content are like, oh no, he stopped making videos because he was so and so said that the content was corny, right? If y'all are following me, right? So the hard part is having empathy and respecting people's opinions, even when you don't agree with it. But I don't want people to think that you have to necessarily accept what they say of you. That's very important, right? And let me get into some of the comments. Dylan says, curious in relation to always being worried about others' opinions. Dylan, as it relates to what? Did you say something earlier? Elisa says, haters gonna hate, potatoes gonna be much love from Cleveland. Elisa, I appreciate that. But at the same time, you also want to be careful with all the praise, right? If you've done something marvelous, right? And people are praising you for, whatever, you have to be careful with the praise, right? Like, take what they're saying, have empathy and respect it, and be proud of what you've done. But you can't get too right high on your own supply, right? You have to stay level headed, you have to stay grounded. Because if you fall into the notion of people saying that you're the best of all time, then whenever whatever you're doing stops working or you go through a period where it goes down, then your self-esteem is going to go down because your self-esteem is attached to your productivity. That's a very dangerous thing to line up, right? But we see it all the time, right? Sometimes we're like, if we're not productive, we don't feel good about ourselves, and especially with mental health, right? Sometimes you just don't have it that day. So if you attach your self-esteem to your productivity, it's a slippery slope. You gotta be careful with that. Empathy is huge. Jamie says you can do it. Don't believe toxic people. I'm proof you. Jamie, yeah, and I would love to hear your story. Drop your story in here so we can highlight it. Boston here, what's up? I just came back from Boston. I liked it. Both my husband and I struggle with depression, anxiety, the past issues, divorce on the table. What can I do to keep my family together? What I always say is have empathy for yourself, and then have empathy for the perspective that your husband is coming from. And professional help is kind of always the answer, but you have to pace yourself. Especially when you want to work a relationship through and keep the family together. I definitely think that professional help can be a game changer for you. And Janet saying, why, when you're depressed, people say you have a lot to be blessed for? All right, so Janet, I see where you're coming from with this, right? And this could be a place where it's hard to accept people's opinion, right? Like you might be depressed, and people say, "Why are you depressed? You have so much to be thankful for. Like your bills are paid, your kids are good. You're not homeless or whatever. Why are you depressed?" And in that situation, once again, if you can have empathy for where they're coming from, cool. If you can respect their opinion, cool. But then you can also reject whatever you think that they're saying about you, right? They're saying that, oh, you're ungrateful because you have all these things and you still choose to be depressed, right? So that might be somebody who doesn't understand depression, and trying to go back and forth with them is not gonna it's not gonna do anything for you, for real. And Jan says, I always thought I was conceited because I have never cared of other people's opinions of me. I can't care, too toxic. Well, Janet, I don't think you're conceited. You might just be somebody who likes to stay insular. Marshawn says, it's hard for me to accept compliments. I can personally relate to that because a lot of times I got so used to accepting criticism that when somebody said I did something well, I'm like, are you sure? Like me, like, are you not talking to somebody behind me? Like, did I do that thing correctly? When he says, I'm here for this message, I'm late, but when you're here, that's all that matters, right? And Katie says, why do we feel like other opinions matter so much? Or why do we think we need their opinions? So Katie, what I've seen is I think a lot of times, Katie, let's say you're a blogger, right? And you're making content online and you're posting about your life. Um, should somebody online say something about your content? I think it's easy. I mean, it can still get to you, but it's easier to brush it off and say, oh, I'm in Texas. This person is in North Dakota. They don't know me as a person. So if they say something, I'm not going to take it, to heart. But I think it's when with the people who are around us, right, our loved ones and the people who actually know us, when they say certain things, it really affects us because we know that they know us. So we sometimes think that their opinions of us actually reflect who we are. So it's that tug of war between knowing yourself and leaning into other people to get insight into your patterns and into your habits, but still trying to remain true to yourself. It can be difficult. It can be difficult. I wish depression, but Linda, I do too. Because if depression was a choice, none of us would choose it, right? I don't think anybody would choose to be depressed, right? Depression isn't material having things. I agree. There's a lot of people who are sad, extremely sad, and they have all the money in the world, or they have all the resources, or they have all the cars, or whatever the case may be. So I think resources and things, it can help make life easier, but it doesn't bring true happiness. I do agree. We do have to try to keep gratitude at the forefront, even if you don't want to. It's not the solution. Wendy, I completely agree. I really like this. Sometimes it's hard, Sometimes it's hard to be grateful when you're just having one of those days. But like I always feel like gratitude helps to defeat anxiety, right? Action defeats anxiety. But another thing that stops anxiety is gratitude, right? Like I think of anxiety like you're in a ring, like it's a boxing match, right? Like you're sitting up there and think of anxiety as like Mike Tyson in the late '80s or whenever he was like on fire, right? Like you're sitting in you're getting ready to fight your anxiety, right? And you don't know how to fight it, so you're sitting there, you're anxious. But a couple of things defeat anxiety, right? Action, just doing things, actionable things gonna defeat anxiety, like you know, you're knocking it out. And then another thing that helps is gratitude, because that brings you to the present, right? Anxiety cannot exist in the present because you're in the future. So you bring yourself right back to the present, and you're like, right. It's like an unlock. It's like an unlock. I should probably make a video about that because some people don't watch my live streams. So maybe I have to make like a separate video, like a reel, because those have a high chance of going viral. But yeah, that's how I think you defeat anxiety. But we need a whole live on defeating anxiety. Like I know that for a fact. But that helps to uh, keep you grateful, keep you grounded, and sometimes you won't be as worried about other people's opinions. Now you still may worry, but you might not be as worried about other people's opinions. What would you suggest for those like myself with ADHD, rejection, sensitive? Ooh, Zach, what a question. Yee. So, this, Zach, good question. Anytime y'all ask me a question and I start off by saying "good question," it means I'm buying time for myself to think. I want to say this is where with mental health and mental illness, it gets tricky because if you have ADHD, a lot of times you might really hurt based off of what is said about you or how you react to certain things. So this is where it's even more important to do the groundwork beforehand, right? If you have ADHD and you feel like you take things personally, or people have told you that you take everything personally, or you're sensitive, then you've become accustomed to the fact that, oh, I'm sensitive. So sometimes you buy into the notion that, oh, I'm sensitive, like I'm emotional, blah blah blah. So right here, it's important to do the work ahead of time, right? So if somebody comes to you and they're like, oh, I don't think you're smart, I don't think you can do this, whatever. Like you may not only believe them, but you may be extremely hurt. So I think this is where it's important to boost your self esteem with the things that you do throughout the day. Because sometimes you might do that, and then somebody might still tell you something at 4 o'clock and say, "Zach, you suck." No reason, just say, "Zach, you suck," and they walk away, and you're like, "Why I suck?" So working on your self esteem throughout the day, the people that you hang out with, like this stuff is it's so important. Like I say it all the time. If you hang out with a group of friends and after you finish the interaction, you're like, damn, I don't like the way that felt. Look into that, right? If you're dating somebody and every time like y'all finish a date and you're like, damn, I don't like the way like she made me feel, or I don't feel respect, or like if you feel a little off, it's always important to look into that, because sometimes if you're in situations where you're not being respected, you're constantly being like disrespected, and people are making fun of you or saying little things to like that show that they don't care about you. Then when people say things about you that really hurts, you're gonna feel it more, in my opinion, because you're not at a place where your self-esteem is like being maintained, right? You're already like kind of low on yourself, and you're allowing people to step on you and walk all over you. So when you hear something that's like painful, it's really hard to divorce yourself from the notion that, dang, like maybe I do suck, right? Or for whatever reason, they say something to you in the morning at right now, what it's 10 o'clock in California. They tell you something at 10:30 in the morning, and you believe it, and it sticks with you all day. You're like, dang, like I'm not good at this, right? And it's robbing you of your peace and your joy. So, good question, Zach. Really, really. Ooh, Zach, good question. I gotta give you a love of the show for that. That was a really, really good question. And Kristen, I appreciate you. I think with what we're doing online, like I look at this sort of like a media company, right? Breakfast with Dr. Kojo, Late Night with Dr. Kojo, Ask Dr. Kojo, the reels I'm posting, the short videos. So I'm looking for different ways to get to you all. So the gratitude that you all have, that means a lot to me, And people see the stars in my content, like, oh, do I have to leave stars? No, the number one thing I want is your attention. Like if you don't leave a star, I just want your attention. And then by sharing this content for other people to see, we grow the community. So that's good enough. So Kristen, this comment means a lot to me. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Amanda too, I appreciate you. Thank you. If I was a little more light skinned or white, I'd be blushing. But I don't think I can blush for real with this complexion. So Bryce, I appreciate you, my guy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, man. A lot of love coming in. I appreciate y'all. Uh, and rejections, common ADHD, it's treated. Dr. Wood. I should probably look into that article. All right. Let me answer a couple of questions real quick. How as a parent can I help support my 19-year-old who struggles with ADHD and impulsive behavior but won't see a doctor to get back on meds? So this is tough because a 19-year-old is 19-year-old is like grown, they're an adult. So the best you can do is just, support them, keep them, make sure that they're staying safe and that the decisions that they make are not as erratic. But encourage them, to always follow up with their provider and get professional help. Jessica, I appreciate you. Am I blushing? Am I I'm weak. What? I'm gonna go back and look at this playback around the 16, 17 minute mark, and I'm gonna watch it and be like, do I blush in this stuff? Do I blush? I love all of y'all. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. What do you feel when you're abandoned but not alone? What do you do when you still feel abandoned but you're not alone? Sometimes you have to look into your environment and figure out why you feel that way. There's something at the root of this, and when you unlock that, whether it's through a friend or professional help, I think it's gonna, you know, um, uh, take off. You might have to unlock. Let me see. Advice on how to talk to you. Ooh, Carissa, actually, I have a video coming up about this week. Definitely appreciate you, Zach. Um, and let me get to some more of the comments. All right. I'm not looking for signs of blushing. All right. So I like for these live streams to go about 30 minutes. And I've already said what I needed to say. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer questions now. But I do have a segment that's going to be called Ask Dr. Kojo, where I'll just like come on live. I say, shoot me any question, and I'll just do my best to answer them. But we got some more time here. So let me see what I can go through. Maybe I can get some ideas before I create content today. What tips do you have to improve my communication skills as an adult with ADHD? I find myself overthinking a lot or just speaking a lot. Adriana, I think if you get into environments where people accept you and you speak a lot, I think that's going to be helpful for your self-esteem. And the more you put yourself out there, the more you can kind of get a better read on social situations, right? And nobody's ever the smoothest. Think about it. Like nobody's ever like smooth, like nobody ever walks into a party. And for me, like I thought about that before I came out to LA. Like when I go out to these premieres and you go to places like Bel Air and Beverly Hills and you're meeting all these people, I'm like, I'm just I'm just a regular kid from Africa who just happened to like stumble my way into online success. I go to these functions and I just say, hey, my name is Kojo, and then just go from there. And sometimes with social anxiety, right? Sometimes you can see social anxiety along with ADHD. You're thinking about like people judging your performance, or you might be like in the corner thinking about people think I'm lame, or like I probably shouldn't be here. But as you expose yourself to more uncomfortable situations, you'll find your way, and then you'll understand that sometimes, even regardless of however good your communication skills are, there's sometimes when silence is okay, right? Like you can be talking to somebody and the conversation ends, and like there's silence for a little bit, and you just kind of like hang out in your own space. I guess you kind of grow into the awkwardness that you have, or even if you're overthinking, allow yourself to like just go through the motions, you know. All right, I'm just taking random questions now. What can cause extreme paranoia and others talking about you? Morgan, a whole lot of things can do this, right? Extreme paranoia can be caused substances, right? Certain substances, can cause paranoia and psychosis. Uh, in certain conditions, people can, have some type of paranoia. You see this sometimes in borderline personality disorder. You see it a lot of times in schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, or you see it sometimes in bipolar disorder when there's like a manic episode and somebody like may have psychotic features as well. Sometimes when you're depressed, you can have psychosis as well. So it's kind of complicated. Um, just a million things could, not a million, but a lot of things could cause this kind of thing. Morgan. Caitlin says, big push for me to start my hey congrats, Caitlin. Your first therapy session, you love the videos and the happy dance. I got some happy dance ideas this week, but I gotta give you love of the show. Everybody drop some love in for Caitlin in the chat if y'all are watching on the live stream. That's fantastic. All right, let me see. What can I do to help overstimulation? I have 2-year-old twin sons and 8-year-old daughter. I'm constantly touched on, screamed at, and overlooked. Work to say the least. I run my own trucking business from home, and one of my twins is autistic and has passed away, so I do not know how to calm him or me in these times. We are working on with OT on ways to help, but I'm lost. So working with OT is a good first step, right? You have professional help in there, so I already feel good about how this is going to play out for you. Uh, so the 8-year-old daughter is a third grader, right? Second and third grader. So third graders are smart. So sometimes you can tell your third grader, say, "Hey, mommy needs you to do this," or like this is gonna upset, your mother. So I'm gonna need you to stay here and boom, boom, boom. Or you can talk to a, a third grader and they can get it a little bit more, right? But with two-year-old twin sons, is even one of your twins is autistic. Even let's say none of your sons had autism, right? Just having toddlers. I don't know if you would you call a 2-year-old a toddler? I'm not sure. But just having twin sons, 2 years old, like the terrible twos, that's just going to be hard anyway, right? So it's hard to rationalize for a 2-year-old. I do believe that 2-year-olds know, like, all right, I don't think I should do this, but they're two, right? They're a child. So I think setting boundaries with all your kids, but understanding that they're kids, and also like maybe like leading into your help, like do you have a partner who's supportive? Do you have siblings who are supportive? What do you have greater control over, like your schedule? Because with the kids, it's tough to like control. I mean, you can control it, but they are kids. These things happen during their formative years. So I think just pacing yourself, right? And speaking up, like if you go to work, right, you have your own trucking business. If you go to work and your employees or your coworkers are doing things that make you feel overstimulated, like they're an adult, so you can say, hey, like I might need some quiet time between 11 and 1 to get things done. So when you can speak up, like definitely speak up. But yeah, the kids can be, yeah. A 2-year-old's a toddler. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. Christina, yeah, Christina, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Do you have a support system? And the support system can be anybody who helps you out. Anybody that you can lean on in some capacity. Like, take the love, accept their love if you can, as best as you can, and try and get that extra help. And is BPD common with ADHD? Struggling my whole life. So Shannon, when you say common, I don't know how to answer it. Right? According to the evidence, you can have a lot of other conditions that come along with ADHD, but I don't know if I would say it's common, right? But you can definitely have both, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. You know, like, and if I catch it, I catch your comment in here. Um, this is called manifesting. Beware of your thoughts. Oh, Sky White. Yeah, I'm big into manifesting. Like everything that like even everything that's happening for me, I would say I manifested it, but I didn't. I did have some doubt that these things could happen for me too. So I'm just grateful that I was a lot of things happen, like a lot of lucky breaks. But I'm just grateful for the people who have shown me love and kindness here in California, and this has been patient with me as I'm working through my content and stuff. The line says, "Eee!" Congrats, yeah, congrats to the lady who went and got a therapist. I forgot her name. Kirsten, what's up? What's up? My bonus child who has ADHD and anxiety adjustment disorder leading to PTSD. I don't know how to help him more than I already am. Well, sometimes I think people don't realize that the help that you're providing goes a long way. You know, sometimes you're providing help, but you might not see like the tangible results that you want. But I like if you're asking this question here, I'm pretty confident that your bonus child is grateful for the help that you're providing. You just feel you just don't see like the results, and you keep trying to do things like you keep trying to help more and more, and you might feel like you're getting tapped out. So just keep in mind that you probably are doing a good job already, but give yourself space to grow. And also, like a 10-year-old is what, fourth grader, fifth grader. Sometimes just asking them like, what type of help would you want? How can I best help you? And then whenever the child says, "I need help in X, Y, and Z way," do your best to not do A, B, and C. Like if they say they need these three things, like sometimes providing them with the help that they need based off what they say is going to be helpful, right? As opposed to what you think they need, right? Sometimes I think kids struggle with that. Like they'll tell their parents, "Hey, I need this thing," and parents are like, "Okay, I'll go get you something else," because you think that that's what they need. If that makes sense. I see that a lot with kids and some of the DMs that I get. I don't read DMs nearly as much because it's hard to keep up with. But sometimes I used to read the DMs and kids would say, "My parents don't understand. Like I live in this household, it's toxic." Uh, Amanda, have a wonderful day. The twins are up. All right, thank you for checking into the live. I appreciate it. Janice says, "Job hunting could use some encouragement or advice." Uh, don't let the job search like affect your self-esteem too much. Like if you get rejected from a job, it doesn't mean that you're not a good candidate. It just means that they were looking for somebody else, right? Like I see it as like, hey, it was their loss, or maybe that role wasn't the best fit for me. um my husband and my best friend are amazing. My son hits and by says even when he's happy, that my ADHD goes into overdrive, overstimulation for both of us. Thank you. Oh man, if you have a good support system, that I'm confident that you can really, get to it. Let me see what Zach said right here. Last question. I had a really traumatic experience when I was 20. From my best friend's dad did, and since I've had crippling health anxiety. How do I check that when anxiety manifests physical symptoms? It's never ending cycle. All right, so Zach, right here, you have to keep in mind that with things that happen that are traumatic to us, the body normally should resolve, like the body should be able to process trauma, right? Because we have a lot of micro traumas that happen like every day, every week, every month, right? And the body will process this trauma and like allow you to like keep moving forward. But when you have something traumatic happen, like you find somebody like dead or something like that, like that's heavy trauma. So sometimes addressing that trauma, and like of course, if we could make undo that situation for you, that would be the best, right? But because we can't go in the past, like addressing that trauma can help a lot of times with the anxiety, right? Because sometimes anxiety and like trauma can like it can be like a game of ping pong, like they're going back and forth, like playing on your emotions and your mental health and kind of ruining your life. And then if you forget about it, then you start to have like stomach aches and like you start to have like chest pains because your anxiety is kicked into overdrive and now you can feel it physically. So I think uh, professional help, professional help goes a lot. It always goes back to professional help, right? And then you go see a clinician and they can help to address the anxiety and the trauma. I don't know if it's PTSD or not. Like that has to be diagnosed. But giving yourself space to work through those things can be very helpful because it's frustrating when like you're like when you can feel that you're anxious. It's one thing to know that you have anxiety, right? And that Like, oh, I'm anxious. But when you can feel the anxiety, it becomes kind of annoying, right? Because for a second, you may have tricked yourself into believing, oh, like I have anxiety, but I'm living my life now, right? And then you get that awful like knot in your stomach, or like you start to like feel your chest. You're like, ah, I can feel that it's coming on, right? So giving yourself some space, like literally just being kind to yourself could be a good first step. You mix that in with professional help, and then you're good to go. You're good to go. And tonight, I'm happy you joined in. And it's about time for the water break with the 30-minute mark. So you all go ahead. Somebody drop that magic word in. Give it about 30 seconds, and it's time for the water break. Do you think EMDR therapy actually works? So Shannon, this is a good question. I'm not trained in EMDR, but I've had patients who've done EMDR, and when it works, from what I've heard from my patients who have done it, they are big fans of it. So I do believe that it can be therapeutic. Um, and I've had some patients who said that, oh, it was worth a shot, but it didn't really like change their life. But I've had many patients who've said that EMDR has been like a game changer for them. Uh, Let me see. Cheers. I will see Leilani's comment up. Mickey 50. Cheers. 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 Water break. I'm gonna try it. Shannon, keep going. You got this. Actually, only coffee so far. Coffee so far. Let me get a couple more questions in. I have ADHD and PTSD, and I'm overthinking. What advice can you give me in regards to coping so I don't ruin my relationship? So, Marshawn, I think, excuse me, I think having that mental conversation with your partner can go a long way. So that way, they can. It makes it easier for them to have empathy, right? As opposed to them thinking that you're avoidant, you're impulsive, you're forgetful on purpose because you don't want to hang out with them, or you do certain things when you get, like triggered by the trauma. So I think having that conversation can go a long way. And I do believe, and it's funny because we never talked about relationships from a mental health perspective, but I do believe that when you have a partner who makes an attempt to see where you're coming from, that automatically improves like the chances of relationship like surviving. They don't have to understand it fully, but just making an attempt to understand goes a long way. Goes a long way. You only see those. Well, at this time, I've paused with seeing patients, but when I was seeing patients, I was primarily seeing adults, and I did see some kids. And it's funny because initially I wasn't a fan of seeing kids, uh, and that came from some insecurity on my end, not knowing whether I could provide value to kids. But when I did start to see kids, I thought I was really good at it. I thought I was decent, and the kids I work with, I can think of one teenager who made so much progress when I was treating him last year. His name comes to mind instantly, and I wonder what he's doing right now. But I'm super proud of him. I'm super proud of him. Uh, Cheers. Michaela says you gotta go. All right, Michaela, go. All right, so we're at the 33-minute mark. Okay, so I do have to get started on my day. All right, so I do have to dip out, y'all, but I'm still gonna work on this live schedule. I know we go live late night with Dr. Kojo. That's every Monday through Thursday. But I'm gonna be working on my morning schedule when I'm gonna do this morning show. And when I'm gonna do the Ask Dr. Kojo. So I'm gonna work on a consistent routine for y'all, and that's gonna help to give me some accountability. Because for my ADHD, I have to be consistent to get things done, right? Or do my best to get things done. So I'll be signing off for now, but this is a great live for those who tuned in. Thank you so much. For those who are watching the back end, I appreciate your attention. But let's go out, let's win the day, and do our best. Remember that your best is good enough. And I will see you all later tonight. Peace. Take care.